Hello, guys. So I'm a little early. We'll just wait a little bit for everybody to hop on at 1. I'm actually using Zoom here to kind of just have that screen in the corner if you guys ever need to do that too. Okay, so we have like 6 more minutes. I do see more people popping in. Let's give some people a little more time to hop in, and then we can go over the selling on Etsy. I hope you guys have lots of questions, and I hope to answer as much as I can for you to help you guys hop on selling through Etsy. All right, so it's 1 o'clock. Hi everyone, I am Natalie at Sweet Pink Olive. I was asked by the Miracle Sisters to see if I could give you guys kind of the basic info on selling on Etsy and my experience. So a little bit about me, I run Sweet Pink Olive. We're a cookie cutter shop and we've been selling on Etsy since 2020, so a little over a year now. So I know most of you guys are cookiers, and you guys, I think some people do sell on Etsy. So you want to check, of course, what your rules on for selling through there. But what I can do is kind of give you an idea of all the fees and my experience, how to list an item, pricing them, like little things like that. Okay, so I did create here a little like PowerPoint for you guys. So first of all, let's go over like the Etsy fees. Etsy does charge a fee for every time you guys list an item. Once you list an item, if you sell that item, you have to technically relist it. So even if you put, like for example, if you're listing, your DIY cookie kit, you put 20 of them available. Each time you sell one, it will charge you again 20 cents. Once you make that sale, here I show you like the transaction fee. There's going to be a 5% fee on that total sale. Those two fees you kind of can't get away from. Those are the fees that Etsy will charge because that's how they make their money. There's also, advertising fees. Etsy does advertise for you. So you see here I put a 15% and a 12%. The differences between the two is dependent on how much you make or you've made through Etsy. So for example, if Etsy does your advertising for you and someone clicks on that ad link, then Etsy will charge 15%. Now if you've made $10,000 in 1 year, that 365 day, you will now technically get a discount at 12%. Unfortunately, kind of can't get away from the advertising fee if you've hit the 10,000. But if you are under it, then you would do the 15%, or you can actually opt out. So a lot of people don't realize they can actually opt out. Once you sign up through Etsy, it automatically lets you, opt you in. So if you want to avoid it, see how you can do on your own, try opting out, and you can kind of go from there. Etsy also has something else called Etsy ads or offsite ads. Etsy does market and promote you through Etsy, but also outside of Etsy, such as like Google or Yahoo searches. If someone finds you through an Etsy ad, you'll be charged, of course, the 15%. But there's a 30-day click rule, meaning if Mary then clicks on your ad that she saw, purchase from you, you'll get deducted that 15%. Now, if she buys something from you again within 30 days, it doesn't matter if she clicked on your ad link or not, or just goes directly to your page, you will be charged 15% for every purchase within that 30 day. It's because the way they see it, that person, Mary, would have never found you without their ad for you. So that's kind of like what they require is that 15% fee for the 30 day. There is an in-person selling fee that I'm actually not very familiar with, but you could definitely find that through the Etsy handbook. The Etsy handbook kind of goes over the rules in that, and I believe they work with Square to do payments. But if you're going to do in-person selling, I suggest you do it through your own site or just, through Instagram or something. There's no reason to do it through Etsy to get charged all those Etsy fees. Next topic, we have listing an item. When you list an item, you want to make sure you have clear and attractive photos. Here I have, for example, my long flower stem decorated, of course, by Corey here. These are really popular, really pretty. I'm pretty sure everyone's going to have beautiful pictures after being in this group. I mean, this is what Corey teaches us, right? So, make sure you always have pretty pictures, the lighting, the colors, bring your picture into Lightroom, edit it there. After you take your photos, get some tips through this amazing group here. More photos, the better. As you can see here, I have on the side, there's actually more than one pictures in my listing. A lot of people love to click, you know, so they're clicking, looking at like different angles of the images. Same thing with your cookies. Like if you're doing a DIY kit, they want to see what's in this kit. Do close-ups of what's going to be in the kit. You know, do close-ups of the cookies. Do a picture of all the cookies together. That will make, you know, people want to click on your items more. Having clear descriptions, that's always a positive. You know, people always want to know exactly what they're getting. They don't like surprises. So in your description, you know, the more words, the better. I know sometimes you click on an item, you get like this like paragraph. But you know what, to me, the more, the better. You can never be too detailed. Make sure you have competitive pricing. You know, look around, you know, do your search. Look in your area, what is the competitive pricing? Don't go cheap, you know, this is your work. You know, you have to, like what the Miracle Sisters always say, you know your worth. Pricing an item, again, keep it competitive, know your worth. But when you are pricing an item, because you're selling on Etsy, you want to remember to consider all the Etsy fees that are involved. Here, you know, you can see I have a wide variety of pricing on this just because I just offer so many options. But I look around to see what the other shops are selling theirs for, and I have to think of what my costs and my materials and how I do things, are they better, or am I going a little on the cheaper side? So, you know, think about all that when you're pricing your items. Again, also in your area too, especially for the local pickups. So with listing an item, you know, your main question is, how do I get my listings to rank? I can only say, you know, your tags, your SEO. I'm pretty sure you should ask Corey and Heather this, the Miracle Sisters, because, you know, this is what they do. You know, they're amazing at this. But, you know, when you are listing an item, there's an area where you put your tags. Your tags are what's going to be, what people will be searching for in the search field. You want to make sure you're grabbing those, you know, keywords. Like here, I put DIY cookie kits. So in your tags, you want to make sure you know, you put DIY cookies or cookie kits, and so that way when they're searching for it, that pops up. A lot of people like to think, you know, the more sales you have, the higher you'll rank. That's not true. This here, I actually just searched DIY cookie kits. I did it this morning. As you can see, the first ones that popped up, if you look here, some of them only have a couple reviews. Like this one has 224, 105. But the first line, they're all ads. So they're paying for the ads to show up when people are searching. But right below that, those don't have ads, and again, those numbers are pretty low. So again, you don't have to have a lot of sales to get high in you know, ranking. You just gotta, you know, make sure you have those tags in there in the SEOs. Pretty sure Corey can do a live about this one too to help us all. So the next, how much do you need to open? You don't actually need much. You just need enough to cover all the fees. Basically, or I think a credit card on file or a debit card on file. That way, when you get charged for something, if you don't make that sale and you're in the zero, I mean, you don't really have to actually have enough. But if, say, you do make a sale and you have something that happens and you have to return that sale, now that'll go into the negative. If it goes into the negative, Etsy has to be able to charge your card. If they can't get that money from you, they will close you because now you owe money to them. They won't even send you like a warning letter. From what I hear, they just automatically just close you, send you a letter or an email and say, hey, you need to pay. And once you pay, we will open it up. But you can really have $1 if you want. But again, think of the fees. So when you're opening a shop, you know, you're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to sell this for $5, but think of all the other fees, the Etsy fees, the transaction fees, the listing fees. Oh, I forgot. Also, there's like a shipping fee too. Yes, you get charged shipping fees. So let me go back to that. So Etsy fees. I did forget to put shipping fee in here. So there's your listing fee, your transaction fee, and your advertising fee, but there's also a shipping fee. So the customers or your clients will buy and they'll get charged shipping. It's up to you if you want to ship it, like give them offer free shipping. If you do, then there won't be a shipping fee charge. But if you don't, there will be a charge. So if you're charging for shipping, you also get a percentage taken on that as well. Shipping. So with shipping, I do it through Pirate Ship. There's two different kinds of shipping you can do. You can do it through, well, I know there's more, but I'm more familiar with Etsy shipping and Pirate Ship and Etsy. So with Etsy, if you're doing it through Etsy, it's just automatically deducted through Etsy. I personally use Pirate Ship only because I use my credit card to pay for the shipping labels through Pirate Ship because I get rewards back on that. If you're doing it through Etsy, but I'm a rewards person, so if you're doing it through Etsy, it's just taking from whatever you're making in there automatically. So you have the money there, it just takes it. It's easier to track too because it's like right through their whole platform. But with Pirate Ship, they integrate it with Etsy, so it's super easy. You just sync it, and then whatever you purchase the labels through Pirate Ship, it'll actually sync it back through Etsy. Rates for my stuff, I don't notice too much of a difference. Sometimes I do, because sometimes I'll check here and there to see if Etsy's cheaper than Pirate Ship. Sometimes it'll differ just by like 20 or 30 cents. But totally up to you if you want to do through Etsy or Pirate Ship. Pirate Ship is great too because they do run reports on like for your tax stuff at the end of the year too. I don't know if Etsy does. I'm pretty sure it does. But it's just, I like using my credit card for the points, so that's also why I go through Pirate Ship. But they both make it super, super easy for you. One of our next questions about this was reviews and how to deal. So with reviews, of course, we all love positive reviews. But even me, once in a while, I'll get those negative reviews. Sometimes they're silly because it'll be like reviews that the buyer admitted they were wrong, but still faulted me. You just have to learn to let it go. There's not much you can do. You can't publicly respond to a negative review unless, I want to say it's 2 stars and below. I think they did change it to 3. Don't quote me on that. But if they do give you like a 2-star or lower, you can actually do a public response. So what I like to do is before publicly responding, because once you publicly respond, it locks your review in. You cannot edit that at all. So I've learned to do more of a generic response, but before that, I'll actually respond to them first privately through Etsy messages. I'll reach out to them because I'm always, open to just trying to resolve it, see where the issue was. So I'll talk to them first, and then hopefully if you resolve it, hopefully they change their reviews. Sometimes they get busy, they won't, or whatnot. So what I do after that, like I'll wait about a week or so, is then I'll publicly respond. And if we did resolve it, I'll actually mention like, I'm glad we were able to resolve that, because people read reviews, right? Whenever you're buying something online, you're always reading reviews. So you want to make sure your review is not attacking the person, but just explaining everything, to be helpful, to let people who read the reviews, hey, you're there to resolve the issues. That's me, because I'm always, even 4 stars bug me sometimes. I'm like, why did I get a 4-star? But I found out actually some people have the old Etsy apps where they don't have to update, and the max reviews they can give is 4. I know, it's so silly, but that's what it is. But yes, just remember, once you respond to a review, you cannot edit it at all. However, the buyer can. They can edit that review as many times as they like, I believe for up to 100 days. So I always, keep that in mind. Another question we had was customer communication. All right, customer communication. To me, always keep it in their messaging app. Here you have their messages, sometimes they'll be like, oh, here's my phone number. And then they want you to call them or text them. I just ignore those. I won't call, I won't text, this is your personal number. You don't want that going out. Or they sometimes say, oh, email me here. I'll actually respond and say, I can't email you here if we're talking about, if we're working on something, like we're collabing on like drafts and mock-ups and things like that. But most of anything related to that sale, I keep it in the messaging app. That's because Etsy closely monitors the app. That's why, so because Etsy does monitor the app, always make sure you don't take any outside payments. I get a lot of people asking me, oh, can I Venmo you? Can I PayPal you? If Etsy finds out you took a payment through PayPal, Venmo, anything outside of Etsy, they will automatically shut you down. Because by doing that, you're actually avoiding their fees. So again, they monitor the messages, they read through the messages, don't do that. With, again, keeping everything in the messaging app, make sure everything is just always kind of like documented in there. That way, if anything ever happens, you can say, oh, here, this is what happened in the messages. You said this, this was clear or whatnot. And, it's kind of a way to like cover your butt. The next topic, seller versus buyer. So again, it goes back to clear communication. Make sure your descriptions are clear. Again, more words, the better. You might feel silly typing it out, but you just have to be clear. For me, selling my cookie cutters on Etsy, I love it if I can have a decorated cookie. But you don't understand how many times people have purchased from me thinking they were buying cookies. And so they get home, they open their package, they open it up, and they're like, oh my gosh, these are cutters. Where are my cookies? And they'll message me, I was expecting cookies. And I'll be like, I'm sorry, like they're cookie cutters. And they're like, that wasn't clear. You, in your picture, you showed a decorated cookie. So because of that, I had to change. The very first line on all my listing is, this is for a cookie cutter. I had to make that clear. Let's see. So again, clear communication, clear description. Sometimes even like if you're kind of like questioning a sale, just message the person. Like I had, for example, I had someone buy 3 sets of 5.5 inches of farm animals, and I'm like, 3 sets and 5.5 inches. Those are huge. Most of you guys are all cookiers, but those 5.5 inches are big. So it got me questioning, why did they need 3? And they're 5.5 inches. Like, does this person think she's buying cookies or cookie cutters? So again, I had to message her just to double check, and she actually did need the cookie cutters, but you never know, so it saves you the headache of having them open cases against you. But if when in doubt, just message them. It doesn't hurt. Let's see. Next topic, can you be banned? You absolutely can be banned. Etsy has a handbook. I would say read the handbook. Make sure you follow it. Etsy is pretty on it. They will shut you down and won't look back. Once you're banned through Etsy, you can send, I believe, a 1 letter to them to try to open up again. If you're okay, like if you really didn't break any of their rules. But if you can't, you're literally banned for life. They track your IP, so you can't just open another account under a different email. They'll know it's you, and they'll just shut you down. I've seen lots of people try to open up like multiple shops. One got banned, the rest of the shops got banned. So keep that in mind too. That's also why a lot of people go and migrate off to, opening their own website and all that. But you know, I mean, if you follow the rules, you do what you're supposed to, follow your, of course, county rules too, look into that. Etsy can be a great place to sell. I like Etsy because I have a full-time job outside of this, so I don't have time to market myself. Etsy does all the marketing for you. I've seen lots of people complain about the Etsy fees and their offsite ad fees, but the way I see it, they're the ones doing my marketing for me. Everybody knows what Etsy is. They go to Etsy. So, you know, that's why you got yourself onto Etsy, because Etsy in itself is a name and people can find you a lot easier. If you can work on driving traffic to your own website, that's even better. I recommend having both. I will have my website up and running soon. Hopefully, ideally, by the end of this year, but it's a lot of work. But you know, Miracle Sisters, they can give you great advice. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. But I think I covered everything. Does anyone have questions for me? In my experience of things? Give you guys a few minutes. But Etsy's great. You know, they do a lot of your marketing for you. You just want to make sure everything is nice and pretty on your site. The fees, so Lisa's asking about the fees. Again, there's, you know, you can search, Etsy's book actually has literally a page that breaks down all their fees. But to know the gist of it, just you have your listing fee of 20 cents, the transaction fee of 5%. Again, if it's the ads, those will be a percentage as well. That's why it's also easier. So when you're pricing items, you want to add these into your item. So up at 20 cents, up at 5%. That way, those fees that cost can cover the fees, and you're still profiting what you normally would profit. I sell cookie cutters. So I don't know if you can mail royal icing. That is, I believe that's like per county or based on your cottage food laws. You might want to look into that. The top sellers, I mean, I think a lot of it is the SEO, right? If you are good at your, you know, tags, then you can go up there, get up there. I mean, I've been only selling a year, and I hear when people search me or search cookie cutters, I actually pop up on the first couple pages, which is really exciting. So, yeah. Shipping fees. Shipping fees, it just really depends. So shipping fees, it's not something I can just tell you directly, oh, this is the cost of shipping. There's different, you know, categories of shipping. There's first class, there's priority shipping, and it also depends on where you live and where your customer lives. I live in California, so when I mail something to Oregon, you know, it's not as much than if I were to mail something out to Virginia. I mean, you're talking about just a few dollars, and it's also by weight too. So food scales is a great way to weigh your stuff. When you're entering your items in to Etsy or to Pirate Ship, they actually will calculate based on your box and your weight, and they can give you the shipping, your correct shipping rates. So international shipping, I personally only ship to Canada, only because I don't want to deal with all the VAT and all those other taxes. It just, to me, just right now, since I still do work, my job and this, I don't have the capacity to figure that out yet. But, I mean, people do it. So, the profit in that, I don't know. Let's see. I don't know much about the cookie selling on community on Etsy, but I've seen them. You know, I see a lot of the DIY kits. Those are so popular on there. But I know since Instagram is super popular now, people are finding a lot of their customers through there as well. Let's see. Yes, I do notice Etsy fraud. I actually had a few purchases. Well, okay, I wouldn't say they were fraud. I don't know for sure, but I put mine in boxes and I taped the boxes pretty well, and I've had people get notifications that it was delivered, and they would tell me it was delivered empty. So they were demanding new sets of cutters to be delivered. I mean, I did it because I was new and I didn't want the negative review to hurt my shop. But I did talk to the post office, and they told me sometimes packages do get damaged, but if the package was damaged and open, they'll actually put a notice on there saying, hey, you know, we're sorry we delivered this damaged package, to be like, hey, it was like this. So, yeah, I've had some, and I've heard stories like that too. Let's see. Any more Etsy selling questions? I don't know if how Etsy audits their page, unfortunately. I'm still pretty new at this, so I can answer only as much as I possibly can, but most of the stuff I'm not sure how Etsy works like that. Oh, going back to seller versus buyer. So a lot of times if you get a case opened up against you, Etsy will go through all your messages to see what you guys were communicating. They'll read your description to see if you were clear or how the customer could have misconstrued your listing. Just exactly like mine, where someone thought they were buying cookies, but they were given cutters, you know. So Etsy did favor the buyer in that sense, because they did say, well, I did have cookies, and at that time I didn't put, you know, I was selling cookie cutters. So even though most of my description kind of gave them the idea that it was a cookie cutter, Etsy still favored the buyer. In my experience with talking to other Etsy sellers, a lot of time Etsy does favor the buyers, because, you know, that's their customer. That's who, you know, is going to them. So, I mean, that's why I always say be clear. You know, clear descriptions, just be clear. Just make it so that there can be no confusion whatsoever. What's something I messed up when I started? Not being super clear. Which is why other people were ordering cutters from me and thinking they were getting cookies. Just because, you know, I get it, you know. Most of my pictures came from Corey, and Corey does an amazing, beautiful job. So they thought they were getting these cookies, and to their surprise, they're like, oh my god, these are cutters. So I wasn't very clear. Just because before, you know, when I used to see descriptions, I would be like, oh my god, this is like a novel. Am I really going to read all this? But now being a seller, novels are perfect. You know, there's no way they can misconstrue anything. Other mistakes? Not really. I think my personality, I'm just so type A, hence my my little PowerPoint here. I like everything to be clear cut, you know, straightforward. My cutter. Yes. So in every listing that I have, because I don't do these cookies, if they're decorated by someone else, I will always credit them. I always credit them in every listing possible. That way they get the credit they deserve. You know, because it definitely doesn't come from me or my mind. Most of it's all from Corey's mind. Corey and I, basically Corey was my first customer, and I believe she was just starting out cookie decorating as well. So yeah, she was actually my very first customer. She was my first sale, my first review, and you know, I reached out to her. You know, I was like, how can I grow my business? And I reached out to her to be like, hey, you know, let's start a partnership, let's collab together, and we did, and we've been together ever since. So I've known Corey for over a year, and her and Heather, they're just so amazing, you know. um, I actually am a very like shy person. I don't really like to show myself in front of cameras. But for Corey, I did this. You know, for Heather, I did this. They've helped me so much this past year in my growth. But yeah, I love them. They're great. They've grown a lot too, and it's amazing to see them grow this much. They are just very kind, selfless. They share all their knowledge, and they're just helping all the cookie people out there. I think it's awesome. Yeah, I could definitely send this PowerPoint to Heather and she could pass it out. Or I think I'll upload it. I believe there's a document part in the group. I will put it there and you guys can have access to it. If you guys have extra questions, feel free to message me too. I can give you as much info as I possibly can. Again, I'm not like a super veteran with Etsy. I've just been with them for over a year, so it's a learning as I go kind of a thing. So I learned. Yes. Let's see. Any other questions? Um, yeah. I do see myself always selling on Etsy because, again, Etsy does the marketing for you. Their fees, yes, their fees can be high. But as soon as I get my website up, ideally, you know, what you can do is once you get your customer from Etsy, you can try to drive them to your website in the future. I'm working actually with the sisters on building my website. So basically what my plan is to get my Etsy sellers, Etsy buyers to order for me. And when I ship out their items, in that box, I will put, like website, come by here, like kind of like an insert to be like, hey, we have a website, you can come to the website instead. So that way they can go straight to your website and you don't have to be hit with all those fees, which is better for you too. Let's see. But I do always plan to have my Etsy. It's good to have both, I know some people literally will cut off Etsy because they just can't stand the fees and the ads. But if you can drive the traffic to your site without Etsy, then definitely it's a good way to go. Tracking requirements. Yes. So a new thing came out saying, I believe, if you're mailing something out $10 or more, you have to provide tracking. I guess before people didn't have to, so then no one ever knew if they got their items or not. So there was a lot of issues there. But I believe, I'm pretty sure you guys aren't going to sell anything less than $10. A cookie is kind of heavy. But I do supply tracking. I always supply tracking. Even if, you want to supply tracking because it becomes a he said, she said. And you're mailing it out everywhere. Mailing this past year has been crazy because of COVID. Everyone's at home ordering online. I sure have. My mail person knows me as the Amazon lady because I literally have boxes of Amazon like every day. But with shipping, it's not in your control. So I am clear. Etsy is very clear now. When you mail something out, they will tell you the estimated delivery date. They actually will inform you of when your last day to mail something out will be. You do get penalized if you are shipping out late. If you ship out late really often, they actually will close you. If you have a lot of open orders, they can actually drop your rankings down so that you can catch up on orders. They'll actually email you and let you know if they're doing that. But with mailing, I do get messages sometimes saying, hey, where's my package? It says it's delayed. And, I just apologize profusely and I say, I ship it out on time, if not early. But I can't control USPS. They are their own, entity. So unfortunately, you can submit a where's my package because I'm not super big, I actually have the time to do that. So I will let them know, hey, I'm going to submit a where is my package notice for you and keep you updated. Once you do that, sometimes the package starts moving again. I don't know why, it just does. Sometimes people say they didn't get their package, but it was marked as delivered. I've had those messages. I tell them to contact USPS to ask them for the GPS location scan. Because once they scan it, apparently it tracks where they scanned it, so they can tell you if they actually scanned it at your house or not. Then I tell them to check with their neighbors, things like that. And sometimes they message me like 2 days later, oh, hey, I got my package. I don't know how that happened. But, you know, it does happen. But it's up to you if you want to send out a replacement free of charge at a discounted rate or whatever. I say you talk to the customer and figure that out yourselves. You know, it's always about communication. It's not a one-size-fit-all. For me, it's always I talk to the customers and see what the situation is, and we kind of just go from there. So it's different with everybody. Let's see. If the Etsy actually does not side with the buyer if it's marked as delivered. Etsy goes by what shows up through all the system. So if USPS marked it as delivered, then Etsy will not refund. In my experience, Etsy will not refund the buyer because it does mark as delivered. I actually did get a negative review once because someone didn't get their package, but they never reached out to me. So I reached out to that person immediately, and then they said they never got it, and it was something so little. I just sent her a replacement, but she never took the the review down. So I actually reached out to Etsy, and I told them like, hey, you know, I have this 1-star review, but they did get the package. So, you know, Etsy again went through all my messages, and they saw, and they're like, okay, yeah, you're right. So they actually took down that review. Yes. Let's see. Any other question? Let's see. If supply tracking. Yes, went over that. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. So I want to thank you, the sisters, for making me come out of my shell to do this. This was actually fun, and I'm really glad I could actually give back, you know, to the community here, here to help you guys grow in your business through Etsy. What do I include in my shipments? I do package cute, because I know people love it. I love my pineapple and cactus boxes, but I do, you know, like thank you cards, tissue paper. I'm trying to add some goodies into my bag. I'm working on those, so stay tuned. Order soon. I am working on having something that I include as a freebie every time you guys buy. Working on that right now. You know, I have so many ideas in my head, and I want to do like a bajillion things. So I do want to do that soon. Yes, you get free shipping when you do have an option to do free shipping for purchases over 35. I prefer, I would even do like 30 or 25, but Etsy just automatically just does it only at 35. But I think this is the end of it. Thank you guys. Thank you, the sisters. They're amazing. So my other give back to this group, for those who are watching, here's the referral link you guys can use. This gives you 40 free listings. I know it's only 20 cents a listing, but hey, they add up, and it's free. You know, who doesn't love free? And also a coupon code, because we love coupon codes. So for all the live attendees, it'll even work for those attending late. I'll have it till the end of the week. 15% off my whole shop. Thank you, guys. think that's it. Anything else? I'll upload this to the document center. I don't even know there's a document center. Is there a document center on the page? But I'll coordinate with Heather on how to get this to you guys. All right. Well, thank you for having me. Thanks for listening to me. And I think you guys are the first to ever see my face. First week pink olive. I don't think I've ever shown anybody. All right. Thank you guys. Oops. And again, message me if you guys have any questions and you guys can't find answers online. I'll be happy to help as much as possible. And you can always email me, message me through Instagram or Facebook. Thanks, guys. Bye.